Well, good morning, my stitchy friends. Yes, it is still morning. It is about 10 o'clock here on August the 10th, 2023, and you have reached the NeedleBugg. My name is Karen, and I keep putting look at that, putting my glasses in the upper camera. My name is Karen, and this is a channel about primarily cross stitch, but we also talk about other kinds of needlework. So that is what you've reached today. If that is not your cup of tea, that is quite all right. But if it is, I hope you stick around and join us today with a little bit of a stitch with me and chatting. So if there has been a bunch of new subscribers here lately, and I want to thank you so very much for stopping by and checking out the channel. And I hope you continue to come and visit with us, because you never quite know what you're going to find here. For those of you that have subscribed and keep coming back, thank you so very much. It is so very much appreciated. And I enjoy having each and every one of you here and getting to know a lot of you. It's been fun. And for my VIP members, I can't thank you guys enough. You are wonderful people. I enjoy each and every one of you, and I thank you so much for your support and encouragement of this channel. You guys can't imagine what it means to me to have each and every one of you here. So, enough of that. What are we here for today? We are here to do a little bit of a stitch with me on God Shed His Grace. And this is the chart by Artisy. This is not the Cross Stitch Studio one. This is the one by Artisy. It's smaller. The Cross Stitch Studio one was absolutely huge. And I changed to the one by Artisy because I wanted one that, for all intents and purposes, I could legitimately get finished. The Cross Stitch Studio one, how it is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. My ability to finish it was going to be very questionable. So what I had done was I divided that one into 3 sections. Each section was the width of the Artisy one. And it was twice as high. That was just one section. And then there were 2 more. So because I knew I couldn't do the whole thing as one piece, I thought, well, maybe I can get one done. And if I only got one done, it could stand alone. However, by switching to Artisy, their chart, I can potentially get the whole thing done, which that's what I really wanted in the first place. So we are working on that. Or I should say, I am working on that. And you can see I have my chart up on the screen here. Had to do a little bit of figuring out where I was, because what I'm in the process of doing, and you folks that are new here will find out this in short order, that Karen switches her technique like she changes her underwear almost every day. Well, I change my underwear every day, but I switch my technique almost just as often. And right now, as you see, or maybe you can't see, I was doing some cross country. Today, we are back to, let me turn this down a little bit, it's pretty loud. There we go. Today, we are back to doing stitching on the diagonal. And as you see, there's part threads again. And you will come to learn that Karen has a love-hate relationship with part threads. Yeah. I like them, or they are the thing to do to keep yourself not having to start and end and start and end and start and end. However, after a while, they annoy the heck out of me. And then I go through this period where I work all the park threads in, and I'll stitch color by color for a while. And those of you that have been here know that. My extra threads are over here on the side. That's why you see me. And yeah, I'll switch back and forth all the time. It's a given. Speaking of extra or my threads for this, once again, I have done something new, or new for me. I put my threads on cards, which is great, but to keep them from getting all tangled up one upon the other, which is really what drove me nuts about cards, these folders. Can you see? I got these file folders. 5 pockets in the folder. And here, let me do it here like this. Okay, there's 5 pockets in each folder. And then I put each card in a pocket, so it keeps them from getting all tangled together. And I'm really kind of liking it, because if I'm not working on this project, I can take it out of the hoop that it's in and stick it in the back of the folder, because there's room in there. And then everything is all right here in this nice handy dandy little thing. So all the floss is separated, so it's not going to tangle. I'm giving this a try. And then I just set it here on my cart that has my scissors and my orc box and my tools that I need. And this cart I take with me from my porch here, where I am now, to my living room, so I can move it back and forth. It has worked out very, very well for the moment. Now, okay, guys, you know me. Will I change my mind in 2 weeks? Maybe. Maybe not. Now, I have to, as you see, I have my scientific goggles on. That's what my daughter calls them. But I just got these. If you watched my last video, I just got my glasses from Craft Optics. In a few weeks, I will do a regular review. But the infamous but word, you all know that. The infamous but word is, I'm going to move my little magnifiers down. They are the best thing since sliced bread. So far, I love them. So far, I can see. What I can't do right at the moment is pierce this fabric. Come on, come on. There we go. So far, I can see fabulous with them, to the point that I can even, if I wanted to, not saying I want to at this moment in time, but if I wanted to, I could do 40 count over 1 again with these glasses. They're amazing. Absolutely amazing. I am so, so thrilled. However, I want to be fair and use them for a bit of time before I actually say yay or nay to them. But I can speak for as of today, they're my new best friend. As of today. Like I said, will this change? Maybe. But I'm thinking probably not. So I use them every day to stitch. They were well worth the dollars that I spent to get them. As I said before, they're not the cheapest, but we'll review them more in a couple of weeks. So as of this moment, we are just gonna stitch with them. And in all honesty, they may look goofy, but you know what? When you get to be my age, you weigh goofy versus the ability to see. What would you pick? Personally, I pick the ability to see. And I really don't care if it looks goofy. And you can all have a good laugh at my expense. I will encourage you to have a good laugh at my expense. So, what has been happening with everybody? I know it's been a week since I did, it was just last week I did a stitch with me. I think it was anyway. I believe it was just last week. What's everybody been up to? Are you stitching? Are you not stitching? Are you having a wonderful summer and going on vacation? We don't travel, so I always, people laugh because I always say my husband and I are Mr. and Mrs. No Life, because we don't travel. We really, in all honesty, don't so much enjoy traveling. Both of us are pretty much homebodies. So a lot of times during the day, Glenn does his thing, I do my thing, and all is right with the world. It's pretty much how our day goes. Okay. Now, I am at this point in time trying to do this one row at a time. And you'll see up here there are some stitches that I didn't fill in, but that's because they are primarily in this next column, this next diagonal. What I've chosen to do, and you see my blue line that goes down here, because when I get down a little bit further, I was doing color completing, as you can see there. But my thought and my attempt is to work it line by line out to this diagonal line, which will put me back on the straight and narrow for as much as on the straight and narrow can be for me. But it will put me back to where I am on a diagonal that I can go up to the top, restart that, do my 10 stitches wide, down the whole thing, and be back at, in an easy place to stitch. This is a bit wide for my liking. I will say that. It really is a bit wide for what I like to stitch. But I'm just finding it a bit easier just to fill in this whole business, all of this, and get it over with before I move on to stitching back on a strict diagonal once again. And it's like I said, everybody does this different. So there is no right and there is no wrong, and there never will be a right and a wrong. And that is perfectly fine and wonderful and absolutely the way it should be. Because as I always say, my my philosophy is you do you. Doesn't matter what other people do. It doesn't matter what other people think. You do you. And that's exactly what I'm doing. It is a bit of color changing, and you know, that we'll see how long it is until that makes me a little crazy. But and I talked about this my last video, is I was always a cross country stitcher in the past. But when I think about it, in the past, yes, I have done full coverage pieces in the past. I didn't think about them as the term under a category of full coverage, and I stitched them in sections by color, and I had my own method, and at the time it worked perfectly fine. But I wasn't a dedicated stitch full coverage as we know it today. And the designs that I stitched, although they were involved, I don't feel like they were as involved as some of the designs we have out there today, and that was perfectly fine. But all of that being said, for myself, and only for myself, I keep coming back to a more structured method, and right now that happens to be diagonal or columns, line by line. It's mainly because that way I don't get lost. I don't have to. Okay, if say I'm stitching cross country, as I showed you over here in this other conglomerate mess of stitches, when I pick that up again, even though I have it marked in pattern, oops, I don't know what happened there to my phone, but it's back. It's changing something. I guess we're all right though. Even though I have it connected. Let's see what that phone did. I'm glad it's back. I don't know why it did that, but we'll figure it out. Even though I have it parked a certain color, if I have it parked, or I try to put a mark of where I stopped so that I know. It's one thing to have it marked in Pattern Keeper, but when you're stitching, speaking for myself only, everybody's different. It's one thing to be able to look at Pattern Keeper and say, oh yeah, that's where I was. Look, I put a mark there, like I parked a thread, even though I didn't, to say that this is where I finished my last stitch or where I need to start my next stitch. And that's all well and good. But then I have to find it on here. And sometimes that takes a bit of doing to figure out where that is, especially when you're looking at the more colors you have. I thought I heard a knock on the door. Sorry about that. The more colors you have, the harder it might be to find those particular spots. Oh, I went down a road too far. See, I'm not paying attention. And you guys didn't yell at me that, whoa, Karen, wait, wait. You did those stitches. Okay. Okay. Let's take this one out of here and park it where it needs to be. See, even when I do it structured, I still have to pay closer attention to what I'm doing. Okay, so we did this, these, and this. Okay, now we are down here. I believe. Yes. See what I mean? See what I mean? However, did you notice that it was easier to figure out that, oh, wait, you did something a little bit wrong? It was a little bit easier to figure out just what exactly that was that you did a little bit wrong. Because, let me bring you in closer here. Because we're doing it systematically. There we go. Just go, oops, over this way a little bit. There we go. Because we're doing it systematically, so it makes a little bit more sense. And I'm able to figure out quicker where I am and what I did or didn't do. So that's an advantage. And like I said, everybody has their own method, their own thing that works for them. And what works for me may not work for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work this color, which is 732, in its appropriate places across this row. Now, had I not done all this cross-country stuff, I would be doing the coming up in holes that have only one or no threads in them, and going down in the holes that have two or more threads in them, just for the purpose of keeping your stitches neater. You know, because there are places where, in fact, there's a couple places where I have to pull the ends from starting, or, you know, if I came up where there's too many threads, it can loosen those stitches and you gotta kind of sink them back down again. So yeah, we want to prevent that from happening. So as much as we can, we really, it's to our advantage. And again, everybody's philosophy on that is different. But for me, it's to the advantage. It's easier and more advantageous to try and come up in areas that, when you're coming up, don't have a lot of stitches, only have maybe one thread in them, and go down in those holes that have two or more. It just makes for a neater piece. You know, my friend Barb and I were talking about that the other day. We took her bath time down to Virginia to Total Framing to be framed. I think I might have talked about this, but we were talking about the stitching and how each of us stitch, and how with her stitching, once she got down to, oh my goodness, I'm almost finished, she started doing a little bit of the just color completing within a diagonal. And because you know how it is when you're at the end, when you see that light at the end of the tunnel and you're almost done, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so excited and I want to get this done. And oh, yeah, okay, I'll change my method just so I can get it done a little bit sooner, which she did, but then ended up not being happy with the way her stitches were looking, and ended up going back to, Karen, switch your thing here. Going back to, okay, I'm going back to diagonal. I'm going back to stitching the way I was, because then she was happier with what she was doing. And truly, that's the bottom line. You have to be happy with you and what you're stitching and the way that it looks. So, and I even said to her, I said, you know, I think and I talk about this all the time, and I get in these moods where I think, yeah, right, But for me, it's just a matter of, why do you keep trying different things when truly you always come back to what I'm doing right now? Is it slower? Yes. I'm not going to say parking and all of that makes your stitching faster, because I don't believe that it does. I think if you're for myself, if I'm color completing, that's what makes it faster. Parking for me does not increase the speed of what I'm stitching. Just saying. For me, it doesn't increase it at all. In fact, for me, it's slower. However, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's not about, ooh, how quick can I stitch this and get it done? It's not about that. It's about sitting back, threading the needle, putting it through the fabric, and just plain enjoying what you do. That's all it is. That's all it is. Did I not mark these off? I must not have, because I must have stitched those, because they're not blank on my paper. And you know what? Even if these are off a little bit, I'm not going to be too crazy about it, because guess what? It's grass. It's just grass. Does grass have to be perfect? No. It's just grass. Grass and weeds and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to go with the flow. If there's a mistake, well, guess what? There's a mistake. So let's see what else. What else happened? What else happened? It was a busy week this week. An absolutely busy week this week. Okay, I did these also. I did stitches here that I did not mark off. Karen, 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 you're slacking. And this is what happens to me. I get carried away, and then I forget to mark things. I really do need to be better about that. I really do. Because then that happens. Okay, what else happened? Oh, my. This is not stitching related. This is just what else happened this week. What else happened this week is I had a dentist. Oh, phooey, stop that. I had a dentist appointment with the oral surgeon this week, because my dentist found a cavity under my crown that was pretty huge. Because I guess what happened was stuff got underneath my crown and decided that it needed to cause some decay. And of course, when you have a crown on it, on a tooth, your x-rays just show the crown. They don't give you the clue that, oh wow, something's going on underneath there, unless you have trouble. Well, I started having a bit of trouble in that the tooth was getting a little sensitive to hot and cold. And I happened to have a dentist appointment, so I said something to him about it. And then he could finally see some decay coming up the tooth. That was no longer, the decay was no longer under the crown. It was progressing upwards. So we decided, well, Let's make an appointment, take the crown off, and see, what's going on under there, and can we fix it? Nope. The cavity is too big, and it is now up just about at the nerve. So fixing it is pretty much out of the question. Okay, next comes oral surgeon appointment. Let's get it pulled. And initially the plan, I say initially, was to go with another implant. Now, I already have 4 implants. Yeah. And multiple crowns. So let's just say this is one expensive mouth. So I went to the oral surgeon this week on Tuesday to be evaluated to put another implant in. Only to find out that I was checking my chart here, sorry. Only to find out that in order to have that implant put in, because my sinuses come down too far, are you ready for this? I would have to have what they call a sinus lift. So, in addition to pulling the tooth, before they can put the implant in, I would have to have a window cut in my upper jaw above where the tooth goes. He would have to go in, lift the sinus cavity up. Essentially, the easiest way to explain it is lift it up and put a shim underneath there so it don't come back down. But he'd have to fill it with something, whatever they fill with, so that it doesn't come back down, and then be able to put an implant in. Okay. This sounds interesting. So I say, well, what are we talking about money-wise? And the dentist himself says to me, well, they'll discuss that with you out front. They'll give you a list of what the cost is and make your appointment. Okay. So I go out front and make an appointment, and then I get the cost. Holy smokes, is all I can say. To have all of that work done, to have x-rays, the tooth pulled, the oral surgery to lift the sinuses, to have the implant put in, to have x-rays afterwards. And with the window thing that he has to do, it's going to be at least 6 months before they can put the implant in if he can't do it right away. just his bill. This does not include then my regular dentist making the crown, having the crown made that goes on the implant, and then his cost to actually put it all together. So till you add the oral surgeon and my dentist, it was a great eye-opener. The cost would be over $8,000. Well, if that didn't make you take a deep breath. The oral surgeon alone was just about $6,000. Yeah. And then you add, and the cost of the crown and to have that put on varies with the cost of the substances that they make the crown out of. And you know, prices are all going up. My last implant cost me, and that was just done not too terribly long ago. I had the implant put in on February of this year. So all told, that one came to $5,000. All told, both bills, you know, both the oral surgeon and my regular dentist. That came to about $5,000. Now, to turn around and put another 8 at least, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And then I have another tooth on the other side of my mouth that's iffy. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. I'm ready to say, just give me dentures. Because this is getting way too expensive. Way too expensive. But that's my venting story. My saga of, okay, what do you do? What do you do? What would any of you do? If you went to the dentist and they told you you needed all of that, you needed to have a tooth pulled, you needed to have the sinus surgery, you needed to do the implant, is all in your best interest. Would you do it? And then they told you what it costs. First of all, remember I'm 72 years old. Would you do it? I'm trying to read my chart here. Oh, it's down here. Okay. What I ended up doing is, because of the cost, calling my regular dentist and saying, we need to look at other options because this is just way too expensive. And I called the oral surgeon back and said, we really need to look at other options. I will come and get the tooth pulled, but I will make decisions later about what we're going to do about filling in that space, if anything. Now, what I should also add to this is I already have lost one molar on this side. This is the other molar. So on this side of my mouth, on the top, I will have no molars. which are your chewing surfaces. So it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. So I need to do some research and speaking with dental professionals to decide just what exactly we're going to do that can be a more affordable option, because I can't see putting that kind of money into my mouth at this age. And I came home and I was telling my husband about it, and he said, "Oh, there would be no decision for me." He said, "I'd say no right off the bat." And I'd say, "Well, I I get that. I'm still, I mean, he told me do whatever you want. He would not be upset with me if I said to go ahead and do it, but it's just a lot of money. It's just an awful lot of money." And but anyway, that's my saga. Like I said, it's not stitching related, but what would you do? You know, and you don't know until you do without this. How is it going to affect the quality of your life? I mean, that would be a question to ask, but and the thing is, if I decide not to do it at this point, it doesn't mean I can't have it done at some other point in time. So that is my ponderance for right now. So while I stitch, I ponder what to do. I mean, I've already made a decision for right now, but the ponderance is, what do I do in the long run? Do I go with a partial denture? Do I just wait a little bit and try and save up some dollars and get the implant put in and have the surgery done? Or do I do nothing? We shall wait and see. But anyway, I think we have just about managed close to an hour. So let me, as my daughter calls them, switch my glasses and take my scientific goggles off and put my regular spectacles on. Like I said, so far, these are better than sliced bread. Absolutely better than sliced bread. And how many stitches did we do today? We did all of one shy of 40. Not too shabby for all my yakking and figuring out where I was and changing colors. And now I think I'm getting into where it's not as confetti heavy, but we'll see. We'll see. So, my friends, I want to thank you so, so much for joining me today. And I have some hardhanger videos to make for those of you that are waiting for those so ever so patiently. So that will be on the agenda for probably right after this. So hang in there. You will get them. Yeah, I just have to set up my they're filling stitches, so I just need to do the outline part of it so that I can cut some threads and show you how to do that. So that is next on the agenda for today. So with that, I'm going to say, let's call this one a wrap. And remember, there are no rules in cross stitch, only the rules you set for yourself. Until next time.